So, first of all, I just want to say hello to my friend Celisse. Beautiful artist, amazing guitar player, singer songwriter, guitarist for Graham Nash, Melissa Etheridge, Lizzo, but more importantly, your own artist, songwriter and singer, beautiful, amazing singer, and just my friend who I'm really happy to see. And we were just saying that you're in Ann Arbor, Michigan, because
Yes,
you got
I'm
out of the city. And all I keep thinking about is that you got out of the city really kind of on time. Like, what was your instinct on that?
I
Like, you
know.
got out before everybody.
Honestly,
Yeah.
it was God, higher power, speaking to my friends. To the friends I'm staying with here, my best friend Chelsea and her husband and her two sweet children. They called me. So I got here. It was a month ago Saturday, and I was like everybody else had plans in March. I was going to be in LA all of March, and then when that trip got canceled, I was sort of still so focused on like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to go to LA, like not even realizing how serious it was going to get or how serious it already was, and I was really sort of new then. And my friend Chelsea and her husband were sort of FaceTiming all of their friends in New York to just kind of check in on people. And they were like, hey, because I think at that time Michigan had already started sheltering in place. And they were
Yeah.
like, so what are you planning on doing? And initially I was like, I hadn't thought about it. I mean, I hadn't realized that things had been sort of that bad. And I sort of said to them, well, and they were like, you can come stay with us if you want. And I said, well, let me think about it. I'm gonna go to the grocery store. I'd only been home from a tour for like a week at that time, and I leave my house and I go to Trader Joe's, and all of the food is completely gone. I go to the Morton Williams around the corner from me. Almost everything is gone. And I was
Scary.
like, okay, like something's going on. So I packed a bag and left 2 days later thinking I would be here a week and a half. I remember even you and I had sort of chatted about it, and I'd sort
No,
of
I
planned on being
know.
here 10 days
Everybody was
maybe.
like 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. Everybody's like,
Yeah.
listen, my yoga studio was like, we're going to close for 2 weeks and then,
Mhm.
it'll be fine. And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, fine. Yeah. Well,
Right, right. And then it's
yeah.
like slowly but surely, as we all know, have unraveled. So yeah, it's been a month, and I'm like simultaneously so grateful to be here, so grateful for my friends having that foresight to say come here because I have asthma too. I think we were talking about. So like that's
Yeah,
I
I do
really
too.
truly should not be in New York. But also wish to God I packed more things. Wish that I had thought like, oh, let me pack for
I'm going
like
to
a
be here
month
for
or
months.
2 months. Yes, so I'm like going through the same raggedy four shirts. You know what I mean? Like just like oh my god. But whatever. I'm healthy. I'm safe, and what I have to remember every day is there are so many people in this situation. There are single mothers and single parents, single dads with four kids at home and no income and no relief and trying to homeschool
No,
and don't have money to feed mouth. You know what I mean? It's like I am
no, there's a
fine
woman.
when
There's
I
a
think about it.
woman who's this beautiful woman and her beautiful children who live in my building. Perfect example. I think there's at least three of them, if not four of them, little, like
Yeah.
all under the eldest i- is maybe 11, and then it goes like all the way down to probably like 5 or 4. She's on her own down there,
Yeah.
and the kids are out back and they're walking they take the dog out and they do, but like they've been back and forth riding their bikes behind the building for like 6
Yeah.
weeks. Like, I can't
Yeah.
imagine what she's doing
I know.
in there with them, and it's only getting more intense, and Como is our governor, as obviously, he's your governor too, but, like, he's been
Yeah.
kind of amazing. He really has been amazing, but, like,
Yeah.
is absolutely, like, not telling us all when we're going back to work. Like, he's not committing to anything at this point.
Because I don't think he
And
knows. I mean, I think
Michigan,
that's
no,
yeah.
and Michigan's, like, in the top 5, I think, right, in terms of cases at this point.
Right. When this is what's so crazy too, because when I came, there had been no cases at all, literally zero, or maybe like certainly none in this particular county. And then I think what we are reading is like Michigan, even though the numbers are less than like a New York or something like that, it's that the rate in which the numbers grew was like
Like,
maybe one of, if not the fastest, because like out of nowhere like a week or two ago, it was like in Detroit, everything sort of shot up. And I guess they were saying it was largely in part to the Detroit airport, obviously, as you know, is like a huge hub and a lot of flights, international flights. That is that sort of layover point through China, through Italy. Like Detroit is kind of a main
Yeah.
hub, and I guess there
Yeah.
was sort of
It's
this
one
like
of them.
perfect storm between like they hadn't shut everything had not shut down yet, plus like I think it was like whatever the primary day of voting was, there was like all of these people that sort of were out and about, so it was like everything sort of incubated at that time, and then you know whatever that gestation period, 14 days later, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we have all these people who have it now, you
Uh,
know.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm
And
literally in this
bef-
house with these two
yeah.
kids.
Let me give you a cheers, first of all. It's happy hour. So cheers to you. I'm drinking
Cheers, I'm
whiskey
drinking a
because
oh, I wish.
oh, good, La Croix. Yeah, those things are all over my house.
Yeah.
I've been drinking like every day. Like just said, I've been drinking every day, and at some
Yes.
point, I'm gonna have to not drink every day anymore. And
I
I'm not
know.
really exactly sure how that's gonna go. I'm gonna have to let you
Girl.
know.
Yes. I was on a house party the other night with a friend, like with like 4 or 5 other people. Have you done house party yet? Have you used that app
I have.
yet?
I've been told about it. I have played games on it, but not with just with Mark. Yeah, just with my.
Yeah,
So
sure. It's cute. I mean, it's cute. It's just the same as like Zoom or like any of those other ones. Anyway, I was on a house party with like 4 other girls, and like all of us were drinking. And one of the girls was like, honestly, like, what are we gonna do about alcoholism after COVID? Like, what are we gonna do about the fact that we're all becoming alcoholics? And like,
everybody's an
we
alcoholic.
all laughed because
Literally,
it's kind of
I
ridiculous.
so true. I just read something somebody said, you think it's bad now. In 15 years, we're gonna have a society of adults who are homeschooled by day drinkers.
Oh my god,
It's true.
it's that is so so real. Oh my god.
Everybody. So I've been zooming with Katrina, and I've been zooming with some of my girlfriends out in
Yeah,
LA, and everybody's like,
yeah.
kind of in the same boat. But um what was I gonna say to you? Oh yeah. So you're in this house, and so you were like, have you released the album yet? Because the album is so good, but I couldn't
Yes.
remember, like, I don't think there was, no, you didn't, right. So you're in the process of like touring, you're playing Lincoln Center, you're playing all over the place. It was like really starting to happen. And then you
Yeah.
had to pull the plug on all the touring, or it got pulled for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I mean,
so
like everybody, right?
yeah, of course, of
um,
course. So my question really probably for you is just like, as an artist, and there are a lot of us going through it at the moment. When you think about what you're going to do, like, what
mm,
have you had any thoughts about it? What is your game plan at this point? I mean, it's kind of a scary time, and I'm sure that it's difficult to even really know. But have you thought about it?
yeah. Do you mean the record specifically, or just work or career as a
Just
whole, or
in general,
both?
like, I'm finding, like, if you
Yeah, in
have a
general.
record that's about to come out, like, how do
I know.
you now navigate that? Because a lot of people are doing home concerts, and we did a
Right?
couple,
Yeah.
and and so, like, what have you done any of that? Are you planning on doing
Yeah.
that? Like, how are you still gonna put the
So,
record out? Are you gonna wait? What are you gonna do?
right. So this is what I will say for me, and everyone is dealing with this obviously in their own way. My feeling and my sense as at the moment, just speaking from sort of just like a heart and like emotional and like mental space, is
Right.
this thing that's happening right now is so big and so huge and is really challenging emotionally and mentally. And I feel like I'm really interested in always doing things in a way that feels like as authentic and as real and as like honest as possible, and where I've done like I've been trying to sort of come from this space of like really just sort of checking in with myself and finding that balance between I don't necessarily want to get to a place where like I'm not doing anything and I like sort of like sink into the depression or sink into whatever. But at the same time, I think there's also a danger in that in the energy I feel like I am a little bit experiencing in our community in general, where everyone is so afraid and doesn't know how to be with those feelings, don't know how to just actually
Mhm.
sit in the uncomfortability of not knowing what's next. Everyone has pivoted to all of a sudden. I'm a voice teacher. I'm a piano teacher. I'm a bass teacher. I'm doing a concert tonight. I'm doing a concert every hour. I'm doing like, and that's not that any of those things are like a problem. I think they all can be beautiful, but the spirit in which they're done and
Is
coming from that
panicky.
place of like, do you have something to share? Are you interested in sharing something and offering something? Are you scared? So what can I do to make me feel like, you know what I'm
I
saying?
can't.
So that's
I
all.
could not agree more. That's an interesting point. Let's just like stop there for a second because that
Yeah.
is such an interesting point. So I didn't. I so my first podcast was with an artist named Greg. And I keep saying his name wrong. It's Karagianis, but I call him Karagianis, and it's because it's this crazy Greek name. He's an amazing guitar player. He played with Andy Grammer, and
Cool.
it's the first episode. We
Oh,
talked a little bit about this, but I was doing this podcast no matter what. I was going to do it a year ago,
yeah.
and then I found
Sure.
this production company, which I was super psyched about, and we were going to do something in studio. I don't really want to tour anymore. That has been the case for a
Mm-hmm.
while. Perhaps you and I over
Sure.
drinks have talked about it. It's
We have
just been
talked about it
something
a
I
little
did
bit. Yeah.
a little bit. And so I did 250 shows a year for years in my former
Yeah.
band.
Totally.
And
Totally.
in some ways, I felt a little bit stuck in a pattern because I really don't know how to do too much else and really earn great money. Obviously, the Women Rock Show, which is how you and I met,
Yeah.
Celisse subbed for Shayna on some of the Women Rock shows, and just we became instant sisters. But of course, Celisse
Yeah.
has so much else going on that it's not something that she's going to do all the time, but we've stayed in touch and we've stayed friends. That is a good thing for me because it's good money, it's high end. I go when I do it, I enjoy it very much. I like the music, and then I
Totally.
go home and I can live my life. But like in terms of this really hardcore touring, and so I guess my point is this. In a way, this time period has allowed me to really kind of focus on the things that I've been trying to develop that
Totally.
have sort of
Totally.
not been able to be focused on because the little kind of pesky thing of having to pay my bills sort of stood in the way.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
think I've noticed two things. There are people doing what you're doing where I'm noticing there's just so much noise and so much going on and so much like when I did a Friday night concert. I did two of them, two in a row, right? And I never do
Oh,
shit
cool.
like that. And I've never ever asked for donations ever. And so I asked for donations. I did these concerts and they were amazing and they were beautifully attended and people
Awesome.
donated and it was a lovely, gorgeous thing. My point
Cool.
was this though. You see that Garth Brooks is doing it and Dave Matthews is doing it and all these huge artists are doing it. There was a part of me that just wanted to say, guys, can you let people who actually need to earn a living do it and
Girl,
just
yes.
like
Yeah.
back the fuck off
I
like
know.
just for
I
a
know.
minute
I know.
and let
I
those of
know.
us that like seriously don't know how we're going to pay our
Yeah.
bills on a
Yeah.
Friday and a Saturday night. Like, do I have to compete with Garth Brooks? Like, do I have to
Right.
compete with Melissa?
Sure.
And I know Melissa's a friend of yours, but it's like,
No,
I
but
just,
I know what
and
you're
I
saying. I know what
under,
you're saying.
do you know what I'm saying? I understand their generosity and I get why they're doing it, but I just feel like to compete with other artists on a Friday or Saturday night, it just felt like, and
Yeah,
so
no,
to
you're
your
not wrong.
point, like I think you're right. It just was like, why is everybody doing this right now? And why don't we think about why we're doing this and what this is all about and what we're trying to accomplish? Um,
I don't think it's the medium in and of itself, nor is it like the concerts or yeah, the thing itself. I just feel like you can feel the spirit in which something comes from, what it is, like what the underbelly is. And I'm
right.
certainly not here trying to say that people shouldn't be doing digital stuff, that people shouldn't be trying to pivot. It's like we're all trying to figure out like what that looks like because it's a reality for all of us. I just
Right.
think there is that thing of like everybody grieves differently and everybody processes loss differently, right? But at the end of the day,
Mhm.
if like, you know, if you snap your fingers and all of a sudden like a close family member has died, in this family there's going to be a million different ways that everybody sort of processes the passing of that person, but at the end of the day, if you don't stop and take a moment, whatever that looks like, the moment is coming for you. Whether you think, if I stay on this rat race and I run and I run and I run, as soon as I stop for a second, there it is still, because you haven't processed it. So I guess
You're so
I
right.
am really interested in like the processing happening for our community.
Mm,
Just this is just like as a
mm.
sort of just like as a general quandary, because I feel like what happened is everything got shut down and then everybody got scared, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, how do I, and yes, of course all of us are how do I, but like I feel oversaturated with an energy to me that feels nervous and scared. That is uh sort of with a blanket which, and the blanket on top of it is I'm teaching voice lessons now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know how to
Right. Yeah.
process the feeling of, oh my God, what is happening right now? Or even forget all of that. Like, you and I have a little bit talked about this too. It's like how very there are so few people that really ever take that journey inward to really learn how to be
Oh
with
God.
themselves. And this is, we have been given, depending on how you look at it, and granted, depending on the day you ask me, it feels different every day, but
Of course, this is an
even in
emotional
days that are
journey.
hard, it's a gift. We've been given the gift of pause. There is a
Girl,
gift in this, right?
this is how I see it. And I am telling you,
Yeah.
I have tried to impart this wisdom, and like people do not listen. Some people get it. There are, but there have been a few people in my life that I am watching, and this is something I'm discussing. And I actually reached out to one of my Buddhist teachers, who I'm hoping will get back to me. And trust me, is probably not on Facebook like all that often. So I'm
Sure.
hoping
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
from her. I'm like working on it, but I want her to come on and talk, because I have found more than anything, Celisse, people struggling with quieting the mind, being with
I know.
themselves, no distractions, not the
I know.
the inability to just be still and listen, and just listen,
I know.
and actually
I know.
seeing that as such a gift, because you can emerge from this. Like, even if you're somebody who's not good at this, even if you're somebody who
Yes.
doesn't know how to do this thing, you can emerge from this a completely new human, with the
Yeah.
ability to be silent, with the ability to not have access to every single thing that you want to have access to at all times.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And
man.
to be
And
perfectly honest with you,
I'm actually like surprisingly equipped for all of this because of my yoga
yeah,
work and my
sure.
Buddhism and all that stuff. Like, I can be
Sure.
silent all day. Guess what? Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. 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 So that's all like a really, that's sort of like that's at the heart of the question that you're asking me. Ultimately, I think that it's like
Yeah, big time.
I'm
Wow.
really trying
Good
to stay
point.
connected to what is this time here to teach me and offer me? What is it? What are the things that I've been running from that I can't run from anymore, because there's no things for me to be like, well, I don't have time and I don't. It's like I do, you know? And in terms of like the
Hmm.
money and all this, I was just saying to my friends downstairs, and I'm like, in a way, it's not like I'm not worried about money, or it's not like I'm concerned everybody else does, right? It's like I've made a living out like playing shows. I mean, that's what it's been, right? But
Big time.
I guess I also feel, in a way, in a weird backwards way, I have been in this freelance life, like trusting every day, knowing this is my monthly nut. And when I look at the calendar, I actually don't know how I'm going to get to this number, but somehow I will. And I've been in that space for so many years. There's an aspect of this to me that doesn't, where it feels certainly drastic, the sort of the needing to lean into and being okay with not having the answer yet today is something that it's a muscle I've been building a long time.
This
So
is what I said with Greg. It was the exact same thing where it's like, as what we do, it is a constantly movable
mhm,
impermanence to what we do. And we're
mhm, mhm.
oddly prepared for something like this because we never know. We never
No,
know
we don't.
really if
That's
you're
right.
really doing this as a full-time musician. I have been doing
Yeah,
this for 20
yeah,
years.
yes,
20
totally,
years. And for
totally.
20 years, dude, I really, from month to month, there have been times I said to him, sometimes it's a bitch, sometimes it's a breeze, which is a Stevie
Yeah,
Nicks song,
sure.
but it's right. But it's the idea that it's like sometimes it's easy, sometimes there's money and it's like simple and it's like
Yeah,
it all makes sense. And then sometimes you don't know, but like you're right. I think that we know how to do this thing, and as abrupt as you say as it is, and as sort of uncharted as some of it is, and I think as artists we're probably more concerned with our health a lot of times too, like what is like I can't get sick because this is my
yes,
vehicle, this is my
yeah,
this is how I make money, I need this thing.
yeah,
And so we're concerned with that stuff, but we're also like we know how to stay healthy, we know how to quarantine, we know how to mask ourselves, we know we've been doing it
yeah,
on airplanes. Oh, we
yes,
all do it.
yes,
Every singer,
yeah,
every singer I know covers their face on an airplane.
yeah. I know, a girl. I
Right.
know, and I'm with you. So that's a long way of saying I don't have like there's the ego in me wants to tell you my like 15-step plan for success I have in quarantine. I don't have it. What I have is a willingness to not know. And I also 1,000% trust, even in my darkest days and my dark moments, that all of this momentum that was building, I just trust that when things have opened up or are in the process of opening up, that for whatever the reason, these opportunities will not only still be there, they will be presented in a way that's even better than I could have imagined. That's the space that I'm holding for all of that. I have to,
I think you're
or
totally
or
right. I
or
think you're
what?
total or what?
You know what I mean? You know, I'm like, I'm sure I will. I've already done like a bunch of little like um I did this like trivia game show thing and I played a number on somebody else's variety hour thing and like little things like that have been like really fun. Doing this podcast with you is really fun.
Yeah.
And like if I'm working on and practicing something, I'll, throw up a video or whatever. But I am sort of I'm waiting to get really to feel really clear and really connected to something um that I feel like some feelings I feel really strongly about before I make any decisions about, oh, I myself am gonna put together this concert or this concert series or this, like it's like because especially because I recognize the opportunity in this time, and I really want this time to be over and know that I really put my focus in the right place and not just
No,
I'm
I get
nervous,
it.
so like, you know what I mean?
Listen, I get it. It's like it's like this strange opportunity, but also I think that I have been grappling for a really long time with, I did music my whole life. I love music. I will always love music. I will always love writing music.
Yeah,
I will always love singing music, but I don't love
yeah.
it like I used to. That's the truth of the matter. I
Mm,
just
mhm,
don't. I
mhm.
don't. In parts of me have moved on, are starving for something else. So I've gone on, I've done some acting,
Sure.
I've done some
Yeah.
writing, I'm doing some acting this summer, God willing, I'm in a film, that movie
Oh,
will
that's
happen.
right. Oh
I'm
my
sure,
God, that film. That's right.
and it's going to be great and it's going to be awesome, but like it'll happen when it happens, but like I'm dabbling, right? I teach yoga, which and I totally love, and that's a perfect example, right? So I teach yoga. Obviously I teach yoga at a place up here in upstate New York that I love. I teach anywhere from 3 to 6 classes a week depending on my
Mm,
availability, on the availability of the classes. Obviously I don't do it for the money. It's no one gets rich
mm,
teaching yoga. I do it because I love it, and
yeah,
it's one of these things that I have chosen not to do online, even though people have said, well, why don't you teach some yoga classes, why don't you ask for
sure,
donations? And it's like,
sure.
that's not what I don't that's not what I do. Like
Mhm.
I get into a room full of people
Sure.
and
Yes.
we share spirit, and that's what we do, and that's I love
Girl,
that. It's what girl, I love that.
you're
Like
saying this is
and
what I'm
any of my
saying.
students, yeah, I get it. I
Yeah.
totally get it. And it's why I love you
Yeah.
so much. Talk to me about your record. I want to talk about your record because Mark,
Mm,
my boyfriend, was blessed to play a
yes.
few shows with you, and he
How
brought the
is
music
Mark? How is
home.
he?
He's beautiful. He's beautiful. He's like
Mm.
he's a blessing. Let's cheers. Let's cheers. Happy hour cheers.
Yes.
Happy hour to Mark. Cheers, cheers, cheers. And to you and
Yes.
to everybody out there. Hope you're all well and happy. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Happy hour.
Yeah.
So beautiful, Mark. We've been making music together. We've been sharing the space together. We have our 1 year anniversary, which is this week, which is beautiful. We just moved in together and then we got into quarantine.
Wait, how has it been a
Ah!
year? Oh my God. Wow. Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
so
so we're
awesome.
celebrating it right here. It's kind of a dubious, like, when is the actual day? But
Yeah.
it's sort of like right around Easter is our 1 year. So it's our 1 year. But what's
Great.
crazy is that we moved in together and then we got locked in this house together.
Yep.
So we
Totally.
talk about testing a relationship. And we've been, I
Yeah.
mean, we've been okay. It's not perfect, but it's beautiful. And like any kind of, the thing
Yeah.
that's so amazing about Mark is that Mark always comes, and and we've talked about my past and my childhood and all the craziness, right? Like, so I come from a family that holds grudges. I come from a family that gets mad and stays mad. I come from a family
Mm,
who gets mad over anything and any excuse to
sure.
like excommunicate you. Like, I come from that, right?
Totally.
But Mark
Sure. Sure.
is like somebody who he lets it go almost as soon as it happened. Like, he's one of these guys who,
Mm,
like, let's, like, whatever that was, he doesn't, it's
huh.
okay, let's figure out a way to make it good, let's
Yeah.
figure out a way to get past this. So to be in a space with somebody like that has been so healthy for me, but also what a blessing to be in quarantine with somebody who's not inherently angry, who's not
Mm,
inherently mean,
oof. Yeah.
spirited. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody who's like
Yes.
not looking to either fight or stay mad, like either or. Like he's
Yeah.
just only ever. And because by the grace and the wisdom of my teachers, I have learned to be a part of that kind of a relationship. So when he
Yeah.
wants to be better, I'm ready to be better. Do you know what I mean? And when he wants to
Yeah.
like not fight anymore, I'm ready to not fight anymore. When he wants to like let it go, I'm ready to
Yeah.
let it go. Like I don't, so that has kept peace in these walls. But anyway, we were talking because Mark is an amazing musician and he had the beautiful fortune to work with you a little bit, but he brought home the record. And I wanted to talk about the record because I just loved it. And I'm going to say something that I don't
Thanks, girl.
say to really anybody. The songs are so good, Celisse. And
Thank
I can say
you.
somebody can sing their ass off. I can say somebody can play their ass off. I can say I love the production or that it's fun or that it's great live or there's a million things that I'll say about a record and I will mean every word about it. But you will very rarely hear me say that I loved the songs because I'm a snob. I'm a
Mm.
song snob. I just
Yeah,
am.
you're an amazing songwriter yourself. So I that means
I
so much.
appreciate it.
That
I mean,
the
and
world.
that's kind of how I've earned my living. So I want to talk about the songwriting for the process for you. You did not
Mm.
co-write, or did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't co-write those songs.
Those are your songs. So tell me about the process. Tell me where they came from. Tell me how long it took. Like, just tell me in general. Is this your first record?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Tell
just want
tell
I
everybody
just want
about
to
your
pause.
background first, like where you came from and kind of like what.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know because yeah, people are going to
Sure.
want to know.
Before I even tell you say all of that, I just need to tell you like you actually have no idea what a blessing it is that you've asked me to talk about this and that you said what you said because I feel like I've had a bunch of months in a row now in all the industry stuff when
Yeah,
it's like, and you will know this more
heady
than
as fuck.
anybody where, oh my God, and I feel like a couple things. Number one, that so often what I'm finding is like the road in for a lot of people, producers, co-writers, like whatever, the way in which people approach wanting to work with you, I'm finding is that they need to discredit what you do in some kind of way so that
You
this is
need
the
that.
need for
You
me.
need that. Oh.
And that's certainly not to say that I'm not open to collab, but it's like, but the thing is, I know, and like in all of the things that I when we're talking about from that authentic place, like I'm not saying I think I am the greatest songwriter to have ever lived and that there's not always room for improvement or collaboration, but I take the craft of songwriting really seriously. So
Clearly.
um I found so much of this, the industry way of doing it, especially in these like industry co-writes, when it's like, let's get together and like, what do we want to write about today? And like these sort of like wham bam, thank you man lyrics that come up in 15 minutes,
It's
and then we're supposed to
so
have some like,
rote and it's so
it's like,
formulaic. And I went and wrote in Nashville, and bless those people, honey. They're making all the money. But
yeah,
talk about, I learned that lesson. And it's a very difficult atmosphere to write songs in for sure.
it is, because you're like, this isn't whatever. So that's a whole other conversation. That's all to say, you know how much I love and respect you and what you do, and the fact,
Thank you.
like, more than anything to me, I'm like, it's about the song, so it means so much to me that they resonated with you in that way, and I just wanted to say that.
They
Thank you
so
for
did, because it was
acknowledging
the first thing. I was like, I know she's gonna sing the shit out of this, and I know it's gonna be produced to the like, to the nines. Like, I'm not worried about that. But I found
that.
myself going, oh shit, oh
Thank you,
shit,
girl.
Celisse,
Thank you.
she's writing
Thank
some
you.
songs. So tell me, so
Thank
tell everybody
you.
your background. You went to New York City from California as a little bitty
Yeah.
thing, just a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I always need to start with my parents because that is where it starts. Both of my parents are insane, insane people. My dad has a double undergrad in piano performance and vocal performance, masters in choral conducting. My mom has
Wow.
a double undergrad in violin performance, vocal performance, masters in choral conducting. These are two Black people who are classically trained, but also like music in the church. Like, so, like, literally growing up with two highly educated, learned musicians, and
Mhm.
everybody in the house had to play an instrument. You had to pick one and stick with one no matter what. I was on violin for 2 seconds, and then I went to piano, and my dad was like, okay, that's it, you can't change again. So I played classical piano for many years and blah blah blah. And fast forward through all of that, I came to New York when I was, oh my god, I was 20. I came to do theater, to do musical theater, and
Like, just
that
to
had been the dream
pursue
for
it, or
so
did you
long.
have an opportunity?
Say again?
In other words, I'm sorry, sweeties. I'm just to ask, did you come to
Oh, sure.
pursue it, or did you have an opportunity? Were you just like, I'm going to New
No, I
York?
came to, well, I guess sort of both. So my first big professional job ever was in a cabaret house show called Beach Blanket Babylon. Did you ever see that in San Francisco? That
Yes,
cabaret show? Yeah,
yes,
so that was
yes,
my
yes,
first gig. And
yes.
if you really want to know the tea, which is so random, I was one of two understudies of this Black woman named Renee Lubin, who was playing Glinda the Good Witch, and it was me as the understudy, and the other understudy was Lettucey. This was
Oh
like
my
literally in like
God.
2000. I know, it was
I was such
insane,
a fan. Oh my
and
God.
and at that time, so we're talking 2002. So at that time, Lettucey had maybe one record out. I'm like, she was not known. Like, she had a little bit of a following in the Bay Area, but like was not in any way um uh, who she is now. And it's such fat. I'm like, you know who the
Right.
other understudy was at that time. It's so crazy. But anyway, I'd gotten this job. I was the second call on this in this cabaret house show. I was there for like about a year and a half, maybe a little less than 2 years, and I wanted to go to New York. I didn't quite know how to do it. One of the guys that was in the show, his name is Kurt Branham. His partner is this incredible opera composer named Jake Heggie, and they had just
Okay.
become like just like gay dads to me, like parental figures. And there was a time where, like, when I was let go from the show, I was like living with them and trying to figure out like what I was going to do next. And I say, you know, I've never been to New York and I want to go to New York and just like audition for open calls and just like see, like that's always sort of been the thing. And they were like, okay,
Gotcha.
well, let's see if we can like help you. And like they bought my plane ticket, and I think they had a friend of a friend who would let me stay with them. Just was going to be there for like a week or two. And the night before I was supposed to leave for New York, I had been staying with them, but I was supposed to be visiting with my family, and something had happened where I decided last minute, okay, I want to go back to their apartment and practice one more time, like the songs in like my audition book before I leave tomorrow. So I'm like in their living room going over my songs, and the two of them come home from dinner, and in walks Kurt and Jake and Steven Schwartz.
Oh
Steven
my
Schwartz
God.
walks in, and I'm like, oh,
Just
okay.
tell
And
everybody
because
who
Jake
that
and
is.
Steven,
Tell everybody who that
Steven
is.
Schwartz. So Steven Schwartz is the composer of the musical Wicked, the musical Pippin, Godspell,
That's
very,
right.
very well known Broadway
Yeah.
composer.
Broadway
And,
producer.
you
Yeah.
know, even to be perfectly honest, even I was 18 at the time. So like I was still too ignorant to even really understand what a big deal he was, thankfully. So I
Yeah.
wasn't really intimidated. I just was like, oh, he's on like one of my songbooks that I have, like, you know what I mean. So anyway, Jake and they all walk in, and Jake is like, oh my god, we didn't know you were gonna be here. And Jake's like, oh, you should sing for Steven. And I was like,
Oh
oh
my
no, I don't want
God.
to, that's like too weird. And Steven was like, oh no, I'd love to hear you sing, like super casual. So I was like, he was like, do you know any songs of mine? And I was like, oh yeah, I just learned Spark of Creation from Children of Eden. Girl, it's too much. So he's like, oh,
This
let me play
story.
for you. So he sits down at the piano and he like plays for me. So I sing I sing my little raggedy 32 bar cut from Spark of Creation. And he kind of looks at me and he's like, sing something else. So then like he got it from the piano when Jake sat down and played, and I sang something else. And then I ended up singing like all 6 songs of my little 6 cuts for Steven. And Steven was like, what is your deal? Like, where are you? What are you doing? What have you been doing? And I was like, oh, I'm here. I've been, you know, I was in the show Beach Blanket, but like, I'm not there anymore, but I'm going to go to New York, and I'm going to audition for the first time, and, you know, open calls and just see whatever. And Steven was like, you have a talent and an ability like I've not seen in a really long time, and I'm going to help you.
Jesus.
So the next day I leave for New York. When I land, I have a voicemail from Bernard Telsey, from Jay Rubin, from
Oh
Jay
my
Bender, from Sarah
God.
Rubin, pretty much all of the
Yeah, all the
major
guys.
casting offices.
Yep.
And basically,
Yep.
what Steven did is he just called around and said, hey, there's this young girl I just heard saying, I think you guys should meet her. So while everybody else was going into these offices auditioning for particular shows, like I literally was going into
You were
these
having
offices
casting
kind of,
director meetings.
I mean, honestly, like
Yeah.
kind of like generals singing for people for 10 minutes. And that is literally how I first got my foot in the door, is that like he, in a weird way, kind of acted as my agent initially. So I had like a
Holy
6 month
shit.
period where then I was sort of flying back and forth from California to New York, because I would get a call saying, oh, come audition for this and come audition for that. And then after doing that for 6 months, I heard from I think it was Jay Bender, maybe, or maybe it was somebody at Telsey, but basically that it was like, your name is getting around town, but like people can't work with you if you don't live here. So I
Mm.
not even maybe 2 weeks later packed up my bags. I had $172, like a suitcase and my guitar, and I moved to New
Oh my
York,
God.
and I stayed. I was initially supposed to crash on my friend Kurt's friend's couch, and like on my way to the airport, she had some horrible family emergency where she had to leave like out of nowhere, and I didn't have any place to stay. So then I
God.
like I had another call another friend to try to see if I literally had no place to sleep in New York, and he called his friend who was the resident director at Hunter College. It was the summer. So he's like, you can stay in the
Yep.
dorms if you pretend to be. I mean, girl, it was like so crazy. So anyway, that's a long
But
way of
isn't it
saying
like funny, like the naivete of like youth? Like I moved to London
yes,
like that, where like I really didn't know where I
yes.
was going. Like I just took my little
No,
suit, my little stick and hanky, and just went.
and you
You
went,
know?
and you just went. But the thing is, like, it worked out, didn't it? Even if you had like
Oh,
rough
totally
times, you
worked
just
out. Yeah,
found
it
your
worked.
way.
But I just do. I think it's sort of like that kind of that resolve, and naivete and the
Yes.
idea that you don't think anything can happen to you and you just go and you do it. So, but
You
you booked
know.
something pretty quick after that, right?
Yeah, so I was in New York for a little less than a year, and then I ended up getting the national tour of Wicked, of Stephen Schwartz's musical. And I always need to, well, it's not I need to, but I always say this because Stephen has said it to me many times that when I got that job, like nobody, even I, because I did Wicked and then I later did on Broadway a revival of his musical Godspell. And he told me both times, especially after Godspell, he's like, that process was so arduous, months and months and months. I think I did 5 callbacks for that show with like a long work
Wow.
session and like all of these things. And when I finally got the show, he told me after the fact that he's like, I want you to know that you did this on your own. Nobody knew in that room that I knew you. It was not until everybody had said for this particular track, oh, we want Celisse, that I went, great. I actually happen to know this girl. I've known her for a long time or whatever. So he's like,
That's
just know, like,
amazing.
this was all you.
Like, I
Which I
didn't get
just,
that for you.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally. That he'll
beautiful.
open a door, but he's very much, and I've heard this from other people he's done this for too, that he will sort of like get you up to the plate, but he's like, I'm not gonna hit the ball. I mean, you've got to do it. It's for you.
I
Like,
have found
because you also
I
you don't want to be the person in the room wondering,
no.
like, well,
Because
should I
everybody
be here?
knows
Yeah.
too in the end, like, that
Hmm.
shit gets out. It's like she's fucking the director. This one was madly
Yeah.
in love with her.
Yeah.
That guy brought her in the
Yeah.
room. Like, whatever it is,
Yeah.
she's the nephew, the niece of, this is the uncle,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I was the
Yes.
same. But I will tell you that one thing that I feel like is a connective thread between all of us, and
Yeah.
by all of us, I mean all of us female singers that have had kind of unbelievable things happen, that
Yeah.
are sort of hard to explain. We all had these little guardian angels. Like, I had my share. I can definitely point to people who advocated for me, who championed me, who
Absolutely.
opened the doors for me. Like, I certainly had a few of them. So I just feel like, especially right now, like with this whole like Me Too shit that's going on, and I get it because I have had people harass me and I've had terrible things happen,
Yeah.
and I totally feel for those women, and I'm so grateful that they have opened their mouths and the door for women underneath us to not have to go through that shit anymore, but or has lessened it at the very least, and they can't get away with it like
Sure.
they could. There was a
Sure.
lot of that, but there were also a lot of people that really just saw talent and really just wanted to help and really didn't want
Yes.
anything and just wanted to
Yes.
show up. Yeah, so it's a
To
beautiful
help.
thing. So then tell me
Totally.
what happened.
Totally.
So you were
Anyway.
doing that, and like many people that I know in that position, and I know a few,
Mm,
obviously, and you'll talk about it, but you got to a place where, and it's funny because I came up the same time as Idina,
okay.
and
Yeah.
okay, and so we traveled like this, and while I thought I was going to do what she was doing, I think she thought she was going to do what I was doing,
Like, oh,
and it ended
sure.
up being,
Sure.
she wanted to be a singer songwriter. We were working with very similar producers. She had gotten Wicked, she was blowing up, she originated the role, she was unbelievable. I wanted
Yeah.
to do that, but I was a little more rough around the edges. I didn't have any sort of musical background. I didn't have any college, or I was just sort of rough and ready and like wrote good songs,
Yeah.
and I think, and got into a band, and that's what sort of blew up for me, and that was my entree
Yeah.
into the business. But what I was going to say is that I always got the impression that we're talking about Idina Menzel, she wanted to be a
Yeah.
recording artist. Really, like
Mm-hmm.
deep down, that's what she
Mm-hmm.
really wanted. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of girls and women that I've spoken to, I think, wanted to do that, but it's harder and there's not a paycheck in it. And once you start getting the paycheck, it's hard to
Mm,
give it up, whether you're a backing vocalist or you're on Broadway, whatever those
sure.
things are. So at
Sure.
what point did you decide, like, I need to just like sort of take the leap here and focus on my music?
Right. So, because I don't come from, I think you are right. I think that is the case for many, if not most people
Right.
in musical theater. A lot of people had these visions, grew up watching whoever, Whitney Houston, Mariah Carey, like whatever. I want to do that, but then you end up sort of kind of pivoting. But for me, I had this interesting background because I grew up in music. I grew up with like
Right.
the most musical parents, like music teachers
Musician.
in performance. So it was like music always felt like it there was never a time where music wasn't in my life, or I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, that I
You
wasn't
never felt
performer,
like
or I
it
wasn't
was
playing in.
relegated, like, just like, "I only
No,
do this." You felt like a
no,
musician, and
but
it's just
that's right. But I was
yeah,
1,000% in love with theater and musical theater, and it was 1,000% about Broadway for me. It really was. And it wasn't
yeah,
until like when I came to New York and then I went on tour, I had always been sort of like writing songs like on the side, but truly not even in the not even in the mindset of like, oh, like because at some point like I'll record a record or like it just was truly just an act of creativity, and I'm like I have this kind of
yeah.
like thing, and like I said, because I started working in theater and the medium so young when I was 18. By the time I got to 27, when I was doing Godspell, I had been doing theater and some TV for almost 10 years, right? So it's like I was kind of
Right.
like 4 or 5 years ahead most of the people, not ahead, but 4 or 5 years, um people my same age, they're senior in terms of being in the industry and feeling the grind and all of that. And
Right.
when we did Godspell, like I'd had times where I had had released, I had written a bunch of songs, and I decided to record this like kind of like raggedy and rough EP in San Fran. This is back in like 2009 or something, 2010. And while I was doing Wicked. And even at the time, like I'm just recording this thing, but not recording it thinking like I'm gonna be doing music now. It's just like I'm just gonna do this and it'll be nice and I have the money to do it and
It's an
whatever.
expression, I need to
And
put it out there.
that's exactly right. And
Yeah,
that was that. But sort of once I bit that bug, I started writing more and more and started like really, really getting into like really listening to songs differently and listening to lyrics differently and sort of all of that. And then fast forward to doing Godspell, and in Godspell, for people that don't know that show, with the exception of like two characters, Jesus and Judas, the rest of the cast, even though you're not necessarily playing yourself, there are aspects of yourself you bring into your character because your character name is literally you. Like in the revival now, forever, that version of the show, my character will always be named Celisse, which is so weird, but it's like that's what it
great.
is, right? And so in the show, for us, the particular way we did this production, our director in particular really wanted to bring out everyone's sort of like individual sort of thing. So for me, even in my like audition, I wrote like a spoken word piece like on Jimbei that I did for my audition. And then like when it came to the show, like we ended up doing that piece in the show. And then like in my sort of big number in the show, I played ukulele and then I played guitar. Like it was like I was the most me I could have ever been in a theatrical medium. But I remember
So
so
cool.
distinctly on opening night looking around at everybody and seeing how excited everybody was, how jazzed everybody was
Because
for
you're
this
so
moment.
electric when you are anyway, but I think you're so electric when
Mm,
you're telling the truth.
yes, this is right. This is exactly right.
People
And
get
I
so turned on by that.
yes, totally, totally. And
Yeah.
I was backstage looking at all the rest of my beautiful castmates really respond to this incredible huge moment in a way that I wasn't. And I really felt, because I'm like, this is it. This is literally the moment that I'm having right now is literally the thing I have been dreaming about since I was 14. But
Yeah.
somehow in this moment, I know that I have more to say than the confinements of somebody else's words. And I sort of made that decision on that moment when the show closed. I called legit agents, my acting and my commercial agents, and I said, I'm going to stop this. I'm not done forever, but I have given 100% of my attention to theater for the last 9, 10 years. And I'm just really interested in what happens if I give 100% of my energy in investigating my own voice and my own music. So I finished that show and I really started from the ground up. Like I started babysitting, I got a job at a furniture store, like I did all of it and started from the beginning, started playing open mics
And
and all that shit,
this is the moment, but this is the moment because, okay, so the guy that I interviewed, I told you about, Greg, it's very similar, and myself. And I think this is what resonates with me. So Greg worked for Andy Grammer, and Andy Grammer obviously had him on retainer, and this was his guitar player, and
Yes.
they'd known each other since college, and it was a really fun gig, and it was a really good gig, and they were touring the world, and he understood the music on a fundamental level. And it was like he got married and started having a couple of kids, and like that security is a nice thing. But one day he woke up and he
Yes.
said, I need to leave this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even with
Yeah.
2 little ones, even with
Yeah.
everything that he had sort of,
Bless him.
right? And so it's this moment, and I get it because I left my band and nobody ever understood why I did that too. And
Yeah.
I've never completely explained that out of private moments with my friends, right? I've never
Of
completely
course. Of
gotten into
course.
that. And I will eventually, but the reason I'm bringing it up is to say that the thing that you have in common with Greg and have in common with myself and other people that I will hopefully have the pleasure to speak to on this show is that you you bank on yourself,
Yes.
and that
Totally.
as scary as that can be, there is a liberation and a freedom in that that can withstand moments like this when we're quarantined and we have absolutely no idea what's next. It's less scary for someone like yourself
Mhm.
and someone like me and someone like Greg, because this is what we
Yeah.
do. We give up the sense of
Yes.
security of the familiar and we walk
Yes.
into the unknown, because that is, for whatever reason, we are sort of, the architecture of who we are tells us it's okay, and that this is what we do
Yeah.
and this is what we've always done. And Celisse, I will tell you, I'm a little bit older than you. You will always do this. This will be something you will always do. You will never go for the secure, comfortable thing. You will always bank on yourself, but you'll always do, and this is what I was saying to him too, like, it's too late for me, man. Like, I can't do anything that I don't feel good about.
That's
It's
right.
too late
That's
for
like
me.
absolutely right. That's absolutely right.
Right. So I just wanted to stop there and just sort of like reiterate that fact,
Yeah.
because I do think it's going to be a connective thread through this whole podcast. Like, I think this is going to be something that's going to keep coming up, and I want to bring it up for my viewers to say, you see, this person is exactly like the last person and is exactly saying what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that what separates someone like Celisse and Greg and myself from other, is the fact that we always bank on ourselves, and that there
Yeah.
is a
So
fearlessness
true.
in that that's kind of amazing and profound. So then what happens? You just start writing and
So I
playing,
like,
and what happens?
yeah, I start from the ground up, and what went from I had leading up to that point years of like playing a gig here, playing a gig there, like when I had like days off from whatever show I was in or whatever, became to a full-time thing. And like saying, okay, I'm gonna play every open mic I can. Anytime Rock would let me get up, I'll do it. Like I really started from the ground up, and so incredibly humbling too, right? Because I'd had a really great amount of success for the last like decade doing theater, right? So it's like going to that
Yes.
space of like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, but like in this world, no one has any idea who I am. And like, I'm no
Oh
different.
yeah.
And you know more than anything. It's like,
Oh my
especially,
God.
I feel like
I
music
left my
is
record label.
no, totally, right? That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
I walked away.
And you,
Yeah.
and you go from some place, I would imagine for you, you go from being in circles where like you're one of the most well-known people in the room to showing up in new rooms now where people are where you're someone really can pronounce your name right. You're like,
Oh, I
you know
get
what I
people
mean?
all the time
It's
who still say shit like, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. And I'm just like, it's fine, man. Like, I don't need you to fucking know who I am. Or like, I have
well, that's
friends in that world who are kind of less willing to get back to me so quickly anymore, do you know? And or aren't as in
yes,
touch
totally,
because
of
I'm not
course,
so relevant.
of course.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't give a shit, but I get it. Like, you do. It changes everything. And you have to just, I mean, you have to put your ego aside because you know that at the end of the day, there's that's not real. That never brought me
No,
joy.
that's
Having
right.
famous
And
friends
also
and being
it's
in like, yeah.
yeah, it gets in the way of it's has nothing to do with music, which is what we're all trying to do
No,
anyway. So
right.
anyway, the real long story short is I just started grinding and writing and playing more and playing more and playing more. And, you know, up until this point, I had not played electric guitar really at all. I had a in that show Godspell, the particular number that I did, it was like this sort of progressive thing where like the number started and I had this little like soprano uke, and then we get to another section of the song, and then I had this like sort of like electric uke. And at the very end, I had this electric guitar, and it always every night, because at the time I really didn't play, I always felt like this imposter because technically like I was like plugged in, it was like sort of chunking along, but there were two other guitarists in the house that were or sort of in our pit who were like really wailing, and I was just kind of like whatever. So when I sort of left doing that work and I kind of started on doing my own stuff, I kind of randomly was like, well, why don't I just buy an electric guitar and just like kind of just like see, like just see if I can learn something. So I bought something. I tried to play like all the songs I'd played on acoustic on it. I didn't get it. I sort of hated it. I let it sit on that wall for like a year. Then I sort of come
Yeah.
back to it and I say, all right, let me learn how to play the 12 bar blues, just like dun, 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 like something super basic. So I find some like fucking YouTube video on like how to do that. So I learn how to play that, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let me learn how to play
Okay.
like one little lick, like ding 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 doo do do do. You know what I mean? And very quickly, I'm telling you, like I fell so in love so hard so quickly for this
Oh my
thing.
God,
And
I
what it
love
the
it.
blessing that it gave me was that it all of a sudden focused this music, right? Because I come from a place where I had spent my entire life playing, okay, I'm gonna play piano, okay, I'm gonna play ukulele, I'll play piano, I'll play. So like if you came to a concert before I really started to get into electric guitar, the music was all over the place. It's certainly that it certainly wasn't that it didn't have its own validity, but there was no cohesiveness. It just sort of felt like I just was kind of all over the place. And when I started to fall in love with the guitar, it focused all of the music in the way. It gave me a way to bring in all these influences, but this is like the thing, this is the voice that keeps everything connected, you know?
Big time.
And yeah, it just kind of like it just informed so much. And I think the thing that it did, I think most importantly for me in terms of even my the performance side, is so often people come from theater, you see them live and it's like sucks. Even if somebody's like an incredible singer, because they don't know how to necessarily be alive in the moment, right? They're so used to
I
some
know.
kind of rehearsed rote thing.
It's such a
And where I don't
different thing.
no, it's a completely different thing. And where I don't necessarily think I ever was like so presentational. I definitely had an aspect of that in me because that's the world that I came from. But what the guitar did
Yeah.
for me is because I'm self taught and because this thing in my hands is so raw, it forces the rest of me into this immediacy where it's like, I don't have, there's no space in this moment to be thinking about like, how do I want to sing this and how do I, it's none of that. It's just immediately a thing. And so it made everything alive in a way that it hadn't been. And I mean, I really, truly, I feel so grateful. I feel so grateful to the
It
guitar
is
in that way because it
so,
really kind of,
oh, totally. And it is so like it's so when I see you do it, because for me, and this is, this is something that Mark laughs about a lot. Like I have very little patience for
mm,
people who are just like putting records out and like I'm an artist and I'm this it's like it's so been done, it's all been done, it's all been done, and it's all
yeah.
very boring. But like what you're doing is so original, I feel like. And that is
Mm,
and not only as a songwriter, but then like you have someone like Lizzo call you up and say, come play with me, because
mm,
obviously it feels so authentic to someone like her, who wants to
mm,
have somebody in her band that is so unlike anybody else, you know, and it's so original. And I think it's so hard to be original. I mean, it's almost impossible to be original. Either it's been done or people just don't give a shit about original. Like they don't
Sure.
care. It's like people like what they know. And the
Yeah.
songs, like, did they just sort of all come out of like, today I feel like writing about this, or did you think about what
Ugh.
you wanted the album as a whole to be about, or how
Yeah.
did you approach that?
So the great thing about this album is that these songs are all they're over they like I think it's 12 tracks, like they come from all over the place, and some of them are like, I think the newest song was a song I wrote called I Love Being Me, which I had written maybe 4 or 5 months before we gone into the studio, maybe. And like the
So
oldest song was like 7, 8 years. I'm no, actually maybe even 10 years old. I mean, it literally had been a collection of all these things. And the awesome thing too is I kind of, in a way, I did it backwards from how it's normally done, right? It's most of the time people are writing all these tunes, you're recording a record, you're like releasing that record, and then you're touring those songs. For me, because I've just been out here playing, I never had a team. There was never a label. There was never a manager. There was never any of
amazing.
those things. I just was kind of out there trying to figure out how to make a live show work and how to write songs that resonate with people. So the thing that I love about the record too is I'm like, those songs are these songs that are tried and tested, that are really like, I know this song works with a 6 piece band, this song works in front of 1,000 people, this song works in front of 5 people, this song works a cappella, this song works
And I
with
will tell
like
you,
all of.
I saw you work. I saw you work in Bryant Park, where, I mean, let's be honest, probably 50%, if not more, of those people didn't know who the fuck you were.
Oh, 75
Dancing,
percent maybe, yeah.
dance, dancing, loving it at the front of the stage, having a
Mhm.
great time. So like that is huge, because you know that that's a big deal. Touring is king. It
Yeah,
really is. And being
yeah,
able to
yeah,
get a crowd excited and opening for a crowd. And, or if you have a band, like if Melissa Etheridge wants to take you out, knowing that she can
yeah,
put you in front of her fans and they're going to dance and they're going to have a good time. It doesn't matter if they know the
yeah,
songs or not, because they've got that
yeah.
thing, right?
That's right.
Huge.
Totally.
Um,
Like,
yeah. Do you want to play for it? Are you set up to play or no?
yeah, I can. I'll tell you, I have a little like just small
It doesn't even matter. Just
practicing.
anything you want. I just think they would love it, and I want people to see you, because I just think you're so amazing.
Thank you,
And
Cass.
there's
So,
videos. We're gonna post some videos online too of you, but like
oh
I
yeah,
just
I'll
want you to
send you for
see. Okay.
All right. I'm gonna play something kind of moody because that's kind of where I'm at. You are beginning to seem like a ghost during the nighttime. I feel you the most. I close the curtains, I say my prayers, but I am certain they are in the air. Oh, the chill won't stop, and I am waiting for a time when I won't be so
maybe I'm just dreaming again. This is beginning to seem like a maze. The longer I hang around, the less I escape. I try the right way, you see what's left. All that we seem to find is painful regret. Oh, the fear won't stop, and I am waiting for a time when we won't be so lost. My heart is falling. Aren't we lost? I hear you calling. Oh, but maybe I'm just dreaming again. Oh. Oh, the love won't stop, and I am waiting for a time when we won't be so lost. My heart is falling. Aren't we lost? I hear you calling. Oh, but maybe I'm just dreaming
That was so beautiful. Oh my God.
Thank you.
That's new.
That's no, it's on the record actually. I didn't play it that one gig. It is, and actually, I'm gonna send it to you because I realized we didn't play it in Bryant Park because I didn't want to play. I couldn't play any ballads. You know, you were in that
So
environment.
maybe Mark
like that
didn't
was
have
not
it.
the
Yes,
environment.
and maybe Mark didn't have
I
it
don't
because
think
he
Mark had
paid
it,
me
but
what he had.
yeah, but it's definitely it might be my favorite song on the record actually. Just from
Oh
like
my God.
songwriting, I really am so happy with how the production turned out and all that too. So I'll send that to you.
Please
But
send it
yeah,
to me.
it's called Lost. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And you have been taping this, right? Because I feel like I want to make sure that at the very least I have that. The online, what we're sort of recording may have been a little choppy. So please send
Okay.
us the audio of that. Yeah.
Yep,
But
I have the entire thing.
we're gonna say goodbye, but I I just adore you. Like, I don't even really know what to say. I just think, you know, we are fellow travelers and we meet people all the time and every day and for years and years, and we always will. But you have left an indelible mark on my heart and in my life. And I just think that you are a beautiful human. When my father died, you were the first person I wanted to talk to. And that's the honest to God
Mm.
truth. And I can't thank you enough for being here. It's made this so special for me. And when I said that we were going to do this, you were the first person that I wanted to come and be with me. And I just wanted to introduce you to every single person that I know, and just be with you and have people see you and hear you. And I just adore you, Celisse. And I wish you nothing but beauty and love and success and all of the things. And I hope that we can watch each other do it, in the years to come.
You are the freaking best. And you have actually no idea that I today was legitimately in the worst mood I've been in since this entire thing. And I was like, how am I going to do this? And this has lifted my spirits in a way that I cannot express to you. And I'm so grateful. And I also want to say that I have been saving your record to listen to because I've wanted to do it when I could sit and have time and be in like the mind and the heart space to receive every detail. Cause I'm that
Of course.
person where I'm like, I
Of
can't like
course.
chip and chop. It's like, I want to sit down and give it the hour,
No.
give it the hour 15 or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Of
I'm going to
course.
listen to your record tonight. Actually really excited about this. This is the day for me to do this. And I'm excited
Good.
about
I'm
it.
so glad. I love you, and I want to do this off camera. Maybe we'll do a Zoom and just
Yes,
get together and just chat. And
I would love that.
I'm so happy that you're good and that you're safe. And I
Yeah,
absolutely love
me
that
too.
your friends that brought you there. What a beautiful
Mm,
instinct.
yeah,
And I'm
me
pleased to know that
too.
you have people like that in your life. Thank you for being
Yeah.
here. I love you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
I love you. Please send my love to
All
Mark
right.
too. Okay. Happy anniversary.
I will. Thank
See you.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
honey.